Hey guys, it's Mark from High Strung Audio. So today we're doing an interesting video. We're actually taking a very deep look at the Schiit Bifrost 264. This DAC is retails for $7.99. It's 2 years old, and to be quite honest, there are DACs that are newer, like the Lave UDAC Micro and the Topping Centaurus. This is a very crowded market in the sub $1,000 range. And anyway, I recently was able to extract a tremendous amount of performance out of the Bifrost. I went from wanting to return this to Schiit Audio for that 14-day return policy. They give you a trial period, to now wanting to keep it. And it's actually my favorite DAC out of all three. In my previous video, when we actually reviewed the Fosi ZP3, I had mentioned that the Centaurus was my favorite DAC running through the ZP3. But I found a way to extract even more performance out of this. I was very shocked and surprised how well this scales up. It's absolutely incredible. We actually got it to perform way past its price point, in my opinion, and I'm going to basically tell you how we did it. So essentially, first thing I want to mention about the Schiit Bifrost, it does need a lot of break-in. When I first hooked this up, it sounded extremely flat, very hard-edged, and non-inspiring. I didn't have high hopes for it because I said, how much more can this thing break in? Anyway, I let it run for about a week and it got a lot better. The next thing we did is we actually hooked it up to the ZP3 and we extracted even more performance out of it, really opened it up. And it, like I said, the tone controls also added a lot to that because the Schiit Bifrost is not as resolving as, let's say, something like a Lave or a Centaurus. The tone controls allow for that. So you turn up the treble all the way on the Schiit Bifrost. It ends up being really, really good, very revealing. And it doesn't have the sound of a cheap tone control. It sounds like when you turn it up, it just sounds like the DAC is you're changing the characteristic of it. For the bass, we turned it up a quarter turn. Now this out of the box has a very thick sound. So I just added a little bit more and it didn't sound bloated. It just still sounded tight, but it sounded really full and I liked it. Now the thing that separates this from these other two DACs is the weight of the notes. The weight of the notes seem to have more body to it. It sounds the most like an R2R DAC out of all these three. It really does, especially if you let it obviously warm up. Now everybody says, they ask me, how long do you have to let a R2R DAC warm up for? Honestly, when you feel that the case is warm, basically you've achieved, the sweet spot. You don't want to run this cold and analyze it and judge it. All R2R DACs have to be warm to sound their best. You just put your hand on top of it. If it's nice and warm and toasty, that means it's up to its best performance. But like I said, this needs a lot of break-in. So after you break this in and warm it up and hook this up to the ZP3, the performance takes a tremendous leap, especially with the tone controls. You're able to add a little bit more of the high, the high frequency response, and it just complements the weighty and the very thick. I would say it has like a little bit of a thicker bass and mid bass, and it makes the sound very full. It makes it very pleasing, and honestly, it's more realistic. It sounds more of a live performance than these two DACs, which we are gonna go over and review in a little bit. But this attains such a level of performance with what I'm about to tell you that it just threw it into a different league. It's in a different stratosphere. I would probably compare it to DACs in the $2,000 range without exaggeration. The reason why I like it also is that the chassis matches up with the ZP3, so it looks good as a stack. The Blue Sound icon also, they're all the same width, and they stack really beautifully on top of each other. For the amplifier, I'm running a Rega Atheos. It's a $5,500 amplifier. It's got some really good circuitry in it. It sounds incredible. It is one of the best DACs you can get for the money. It's an integrated DAC. I really like it a lot, and it sounds great with this setup here. It's magical. Now, the one thing I did in addition to adding this was the SMSL. It's the PL100 Reclocker. This is basically a DDC, and you're replacing the clock inside this with this, and the results are phenomenal. Now, there are a ton of reviewers on YouTube, a lot of audio channels that mention this. I'm not the first person, but the new thing that I'm going to be talking about is how this scales with this thing. Obviously, it sounds better with the Centaurus and the Lave, but for some reason, this scales so much bigger and like a higher percentage than any DAC I've ever tested with. So the fact that it scales so nicely, it's just a testament to the rest of the topology, the multi-bit topology in here. It must be really, really good, because the one thing holding it back, I guess, was the clock. The clock. This is just, I guess, a better clock. So it's not about data, it's about timing. This clock here is about timing, and I guess when you improve the timing of the clock, it just makes the frequency, the sound, a lot more focused. When it's more focused, everything starts happening, like texture and echo and air and all that stuff, all the good stuff. When you describe a DAC and you say it's holographic, I will say that the ZP3 plus the SMSL PO100 with the Bifrost, you're getting holographic sound. You're getting real R2R sound, very similar to something like a Denafrips Pontus or like a high-end R2R sound. Honestly, these DACs here, although they sound great, they're very good. They're less of an R2R sound than the Bifrost. The Bifrost sounds 110% analog. It's hard to describe and hard to put in words what actually that means, but it just doesn't have any digital flavor to it. It sounds very full. Like I said, all the notes that come out of it, it has a very meaty and thick texture. The bass coming out of this, I mean, usually you don't depend on a DAC for bass output, but when you have DACs like, let's say, the Lave UDAC Micro, which sound very lean, this is somewhere in the middle of both of those. So this is not ultra lean, and it's not super thick like the Bifrost, but this is super, super lean. One of the things I didn't like also about the Lave Micro DAC is that seems to be a bump in the upper mid-range, and for me that's a big no-no, especially when you have a lean sound. So you're going lean on, let's say, the bass or the sub bass, and then you have a spike in the upper mid-range. To me, it's very fatiguing. Now, I did let this break in for quite a while. I don't know. I mean, I have probably about 150 hours on it. I don't know if it needs more than that. I'm going to keep trying to break it in, but ultimately, I think this is going to be going back I'm going to be taking advantage of the return policy and sending this back, just because it doesn't mesh well with my gear. Now, you can maybe make this work synergistically with other equipment, in my opinion. Maybe like a Hagel amplifier, which are known to be very thick. Their output has a very meaty type of output. Maybe it'll blend well with something like this. And also a Dynaudio pair of speakers. I could imagine that pairing would be probably a good pairing, just based on my experience and my guess. So if you have this, maybe it's just maybe the synergy with the things that I'm using. But for me, this sounded a little bit lean. I know a lot of the reviewers go crazy when a DAC is very resolving, and it is more resolving, let's say, than the Schiit Bifrost. When you hook this up to the preamp, to the ZP3, you do not want to even touch the treble. It'll be way too hot. So, but a lot of people think more resolving is a better sound. It's not true. It doesn't sound like a real sound. It doesn't sound like a live band because it's missing, like I said, that thickness in the bass, and there's a raise in the upper mid-range. It gives a perception of, more information coming through. But honestly, just like when you design a speaker, I designed custom speakers. This is one of my designs here, Mamie Acoustics. Hopefully I'll be releasing that soon. But anyway, when you design a speaker, you attenuate the tweeter to match the woofer output. And I know that when I first started designing speakers, I got very addicted to, keeping the tweeter hot on the speaker, because you had more information coming through. It sounded better for the first few minutes, and then it became really fatiguing. So if you basically don't attenuate a tweeter properly, and you make a speaker design for the first, maybe, I don't know, a minute or two, it's going to sound great. And then as you turn the volume up and listen longer, it just becomes fatiguing. That's kind of like what the Lave is to me. It's not something that I would consider a high-end piece. I don't know about their more expensive unit. It probably sounds better than this, I could imagine, but this is not going to do it for me. The Centaurus, which I raved about, is still great. Where it loses out to the Schiit Bifrost with these upgrades is the weight of the sound. It does not have the weight and the authority of all the notes coming out of this. Also the mid-range, or I would say the mid-range is slightly, the mid section of the frequency, it just appears and seems to be slightly pushed back, which is very pleasing and very good because it's an amazing DAC. But the Schiit Bifrost is right up front. I mean, the music is present, it's alive, without being fatiguing, without having any, when I say no fatigue, I mean like zero. So it's up front and present. It's like, it sounds like when you listen to you go to like listening rooms and you go to these very fancy audio stores, and they put on these like $20,000 systems, you always hear the mid-range and the sound, everything is pushed forward and it sounds organic. And that is kind of like what this reminded me of. It sounds like a very high-end type of sound coming out of the Bifrost. Now, I usually would not make a video just based on something like this, adding upgrades to, a product. But when they're so cheap, like I'll give you an example. This is 800 bucks. This is 200, let's say, and this is 80. Basically, that comes right around the cost of these other DACs right here. So you can upgrade the Schiit Bifrost, have better performance, and be at the same price of these DACs here. Now, another thing I did, which I didn't expect that big a leap of performance, was I changed the cable that connects this to the streamer. So you hook the USB-C up into the back of this, and then there's a USB-A that goes into the streamer. This is what comes with it. I got an Audio Quest cable here. It's a cinnamon. They have different levels of cable. They have like forest, cinnamon. That goes up the line. This is a little bit over 100 bucks. This does make a huge difference. Also in the sound performance and quality. This will definitely make the sound noticeably more transparent than the stock cable. It is definitely a worthy upgrade. If you're going to get this, you should definitely get this upgrade here. Do not get the forest. Don't be cheap and get the forest. That's the one down from this. Get this one. The cinnamon is a sweet spot for Audio Quest cables. And, sometimes they don't make a big difference. And I'll tell you, if it's minimal, I'll tell you not to get it. This makes a big difference. So you definitely want to get that cable and hook it up to the clocker in between your streamer. I used a coaxial cable from the streamer into the Bifrost. It sounded good. I went with a Pangea cable. I forgot the price of this, but it's well under 100 bucks. And I actually compared it to a cable that I bought from Moon Audio from Cardis. It was a Cardis Clear. It was well over 100 bucks, and the Pangea sounded better to me. It's not always about price. It's about, the performance. Now that I'm on cables, we tested the Rye cable. This is an I2S, and we hooked it up. Now, this doesn't have an I2S, the Bifrost, but these DACs also, the Centaurus and the Live have the I2S. I didn't hear a difference in the sound quality between that and the Pangea coaxial. If it was very minor, but I didn't really, nothing to write home about, for me at least, in my system. But anyway, if you follow my advice and you own a Schiit Bifrost, I'm telling you, if you get these three items, the the preamp, the little DDC here, and then this wire here from Audio Quest, you are going to have a very, very high-end sound. It's the type of sound where there really isn't a justification to get any more than this. It's kind of like that type of feeling I get. I don't know how much better it can get, honestly. It's that good. Keep in mind, I judged this with this fully broken in and this warmed up. All good cables. Now, I also want to tell you that I did use a very high-end cable. It's an XLR cable from Audio Quest. It's the Mackenzie line, Mackenzie XLRs. I used that to connect both of these. It does improve the sound quality as opposed to using RCAs. So XLR between the Fosi audio and the Schiit Bifrost is definitely recommended. So that's another thing you might want to get. A good high quality pair of XLRs to connect your preamp to this. It does reduce the noise noticeably, makes it quieter, and it's definitely something you want to look into. Now, the speakers I tested it with were many. One of them, on the cheaper end, was the Monitor Audio Silver 107Gs. These are amazing for the price. They're about 1,400 bucks. They're definitely the best speaker, in my opinion, in that price range. It sounded fantastic with this speaker. Now, obviously, a more expensive speaker like this one, this is Mimi Acoustics. This is something that I've created. This is going to sound more like a high-end Dyn Audio, like either a Confidence or a Contour, that type of sound. This is a lot more revealing than the monitor audio. It's got a quicker, just a better bass response, much better mid-range, more revealing top end, very seductive sound. It sounded absolutely phenomenal with this, and the running off the Athos from Rega. What a great time to be in audio. Now, I did also want to tell you that I did test this with something cheaper, and that is the Rogue Audio Sphinx V3 Magnum. That is a Class D amplifier with a tube stage in it. Absolutely phenomenal. Really phenomenal with that setup. It's a $2,000 amp. You don't have to go crazy and get a Rega to make this setup sound good. The Rogue Audio sounded really good. The differences are, between those two amps, there's going to be a little bit more grunt and control from the Rega. It just has more that output power, but the Rogue Audio is something that was very clean, very clear, very musical. Just a great pairing with this. I also tried the Audio Lab. The Audio Lab 9000. It's an amplifier. It's over 100 watts a channel. Very clean, very nice sounding. Definitely not as good as the Rega Athos, but very good. Good pairing. Like I said, very neutral sounding and very clean. Nothing wrong with it. There's really nothing wrong. But anyway, I figured I'd make this video letting everybody know that the Bifrost now is something that scales up tremendously, a lot more than these two DACs here. And if you do what I said, you'll get performance way past its price point. And you'll also be doing something cool because you'll be buying American, which I like. I definitely like to promote. I like buying American. I like supporting my country and the workers in my country and the people that make companies here. This is the backbone of our society is American-based companies. So we have to support them. This scales up phenomenally. If my advice to Schiit Audio, if they're listening and watching this video, is really take the time to just improve your clock. Take something like this, maybe improve on it, stick it in here, charge $1,000 for it. It'll definitely outweigh and outdo the competition. This is 2 years old already. You're due for an upgrade anyway. I would put a better clock in here, leaving the same topology, and just go from there. But what an amazing performance out of the Bifrost. Really something that I had to make a video for and let everybody know. I am definitely keeping this DAC. It's going to be in my system for quite a while. I'm now considering getting the one that's above this, the Gungear 2, but I'm not sure I even need it. Like I said, this performance, I don't know if I would need more performance than this that I'm getting out of this setup. I love the fact that you have tone controls. You could actually control how this really sounds. That is an amazing feature of this preamp, in addition to giving better sound quality out of this and more push and just more dynamics. Really, like I said, with this combo, it's unbelievable. Anyway, it's Mark from High Strung Audio signing out. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you like these videos, please join our channel. We love the comments below. Please let us know what you think. If you have this Bifrost and you do what I said and buy these two things, please report the results back down below, good or bad. We want to hear everybody's opinion. I'm pretty sure it's going to be good if you follow my direction with all the cable setup and everything like that. But anyway, feedback is something I consider very important. So please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.